Alright, so I'm here today with an update on tax credits. Many of you have been reaching out for the last couple of weeks asking, what's the update on the tax credits? What's the update on the tax credits? So I'm going to break it down for you, let you know where we sit today and what's on the table. So there's a lot going on, even though it seems like there's not, but most of the stuff that's happening right now is happening behind the scenes in Congress. And now a special shout out to the sponsor of this video, Drive Protected Shop. As you know, at this point, we have PPF wrapped our Model Y front to back. That last video showing you the final PPF wrap is in the works and should be coming very soon. At Drive Protected Shop, you can order DIY kits to PPF wrap your car all on your own and save literally thousands of dollars. Although all prices are in Canadian dollars, do be aware with code BTG for an extended period of time, you can now save 25% on that kit. With that 25% savings, you can get a DIY PPF pre-cut kit from Expel in any make and model now. Starting today, that 25% can now be used on any car, not just Teslas. So thanks again to Drive Protected Shop for sponsoring this video. Now, of course, the existing version of Build Back Better was passed in the House on Friday, November 19th. And it's been about 2 weeks now, so the Senate has had this bill in their hands working on it. Specifically, Joe Manchin has been the centerpiece of all this discussion. So he's been taking the lead role in working on making this bill a version that can be passed in the Senate. Because at the end of the day, it's him and one other senator that are likely to hold this bill up. So if we can get past his and her objections in this bill, then we would have a passed bill. As it sits right now, there is no support from Republicans for this bill at all. So every Democrat must vote yes on this bill. In order to do so, they do need to make some changes, and that's what they're working on now. So to start with, let's summarize what the issues are and what they're working on. Starting first and foremost, the SALT deduction is a big sticking point, not just for Joe Manchin. The SALT tax deduction allows people to deduct up to $10,000 of their income at a minimum. That in this bill has been increased to $80,000. So high income earners would have a bigger tax write-off right off the bat. That's obviously going to be a big issue when spending is a problem, and for the last year, we've been talking about how some people are making too much money. This is not a very popular thing, and I'm not exactly sure how it got roped in there, but this is being looked at, and I'm not sure that this is going to stick. As a matter of fact, it's probably just going to get wiped away completely. Now that said, Senator Bernie Sanders did offer up a proposal that would put an income cap on who's eligible for that SALT tax deduction. Next up is paid family leave. Now in the original version of this bill, paid family leave was proposed at 12 weeks. So that means if you were to have a child, as an example, you'd be guaranteed paid leave for 12 weeks. That then went to 0. They removed it completely. However, just before passing this and moving it over to the Senate, the Democrats did put 4 weeks back in there. Now, Joe Manchin has said many times in the past that this is not the way to get family leave passed. His objection is that is something that should be done through the standard process, not the budget reconciliation process. So he's been pushing back on this, and it's unclear at this time if that 4 weeks will stay in the final version of Build Back Better. Next up is probably the most outspoken issue that Joe Manchin has with this bill, and that's the union boost. As you know, there's a $4,500 boost in tax credits for EVs if the car is built by a U.S. union, and that is a big problem. Of course, there's politics at play here of why he objects to it, but nonetheless, it's a big problem. So that $4,500 is either A, going to be eliminated completely, or B, it's going to be opened up to allow other manufacturers, not just union built. Now, there's also pressure on this specific boost from both Canada and Mexico, and they claim that it violates USMCA, which I don't know if it does or doesn't, but there's probably a case to be made. And even if it doesn't, this could be held up because of that. So this does need to be addressed one way or the other. Next up is another big one on immigration. Right now in the bill, it does identify those who entered the country illegally before 2011 as having the opportunity to get a renewable work permit. Now this will allow them to continue to stay in the country, continue to work, and not be worried about being kicked out of the country. So by not allowing them to be deported, this would provide a more comfortable life for those who are in kind of a hiding state right now. Now, obviously, there's some questions on the legality of that, and that's where the parliamentarian comes in. So right now, the Senate is still waiting on the parliamentarian to rule on which pieces of Build Back Better can and cannot stay in this law. Because this is going through the budget reconciliation process, there are specific funny rules that are not always so clear on what they can and cannot do. So it has to get the blessing of the parliamentarian to be able to be moved forward. So they're looking at some other options here that would potentially just give them guaranteed status where they won't be deported, but may not be able to get work permits. So that is looking like there are some changes that are going to have to be made, and we'll have to wait and see what those end up being. One of the interesting things that has since been proposed to be added that we've heard a lot about from numerous sources is there is this new proposal to be added to the bill that would add a methane fee on emissions for energy producers. So there would essentially be a tax or a fee for power producers if they're using fossil fuels to create that power. So I believe that the idea is right, and it's to help promote moving to more sustainable energy production. However, the person who's going to pay for this is you, the consumer. Whether you like it or not, coal, natural gas, those are both very big components in our current grid. And although yes, we probably need to move towards changing that, you, the consumer, are going to be the one that pays that additional fee. So there are going to be some issues here that I'm not sure how touchy this ground is. Now, an idea of a carbon tax has been talked about for a long time, and this could be that first kind of baby step into moving in that direction. We'll just have to wait and see. And finally, another thing that's being talked about added right now is adding hearing protection to Medicaid. So an expansion of Medicaid is definitely being talked about, and although they were talking about doing dental, vision, and hearing, it sounds like they've pared that all the way down to just hearing coverage. So we'll have to wait again and see if any of this gets added into Build Back Better. Now on to timing. Now with the House, it was a little bit clearer. They were specifically targeting Thanksgiving to have this done. And sure enough, I can't believe it, they actually did pass this before Thanksgiving. Now that it's over into the Senate, all the talk since then has been trying to get this passed before Christmas. Now that continues to be cited. However, I am hearing from multiple sources on Capitol Hill that this bill is looking like it's going to be set up for a vote the second week of January. Now that is a big difference between December and January, and the reason is there's a lot of people delaying orders for January 1st. One of the important things to understand about how this bill works when it's specific to tax credits is it is effective after December 31st, 2021, or after this is signed into law, whichever comes latest. So if the bill didn't end up passing till, say, March 1st of 2022, this is not retroactive. You will not get a tax credit if you took delivery January 2nd, January 15th, February 15th for that matter. It's either after December 31st, 2021 or when it's signed into law. So be aware of that. This could potentially be a big issue. I know that Tesla right now is really pushing on people to take delivery this year while numerous people have put their orders on delay. And it sounds like right now Tesla is holding firm on that 30-day hold notice, and I'm not surprised. So now that we are here in December, if you put your order on hold right now, you should have enough time to get to January 1st. However, that doesn't guarantee this thing's going to get passed before then. So we're also hearing from Joe Manchin today that he doesn't believe this is going to happen in 2021. And this is a big blow to the Democrats because passing this before the end of the year is a big victory that they are definitely pressured to get done. One of the big reasons for that is since the middle of the year, a lot of people have been receiving a child tax credit on a monthly basis. This is the first version of what could be considered basic child support for everybody that qualifies, at least from an income perspective. So December 15th is the last day that people are going to get those checks unless this gets signed into bill before January 15th. So if this doesn't happen by the end of this year, it's not likely that those checks are going to continue, which means a lot of people are going to be cut off right at the end. Now, of course, we should be planning for this and everybody should be responsible, but in the real world, this is going to be a big hit to a lot of American families that need that money and have started to rely on that after having it for about 6 months. So with all that, I still think it's unlikely now that this is going to get passed by Christmas, even though that is the target. Now, anything could happen between now and then, and none of this is guaranteed. This whole bill could be scrapped for all that we know at this point in time. But as it sits right now, I think the few items that are an issue are workable. So I do think that there's a good chance something could get passed, and I think it will include very much of what's already in there today. There are going to be some changes, but we'll just have to wait and see exactly what those are. Now, of course, there are no specific changes to the tax credits since last time we talked. However, I do want to clarify some more of the questions that I get on a frequent basis, and also to share with you those world famous slides just for your benefit. Of course, this is a 10-year bill. It starts with the first 5 years for all EVs. Starting on the next 5 years, this will only qualify for US built EVs. Again, I cannot reiterate this enough. This is not a retroactive credit. This is effective after December 31st, 2021, or when it's signed into law, whichever comes latest. It includes a $7,500 credit, which is made up of a $4,000 base credit for all, which does include plug-in hybrids. And then there's a boost of $3,500 if the battery pack is 40 kilowatt hours or larger. There are $5,000 in boosts available, of course including that $4,500 union boost, which is very likely to change, and a $500 boost if the battery is built in the US. This is a refundable credit. You can have zero income, zero tax liability. You will get the maximum credit based on the car you purchase. It does not matter what your tax liability is. I repeat, this is a refundable credit. The updated income caps are still the same. This is based on adjusted gross income. It's $250,000 for individuals, all the way up to $500,000 for joint filers. If you make more than that, that's okay, because this credit just reduces by $200 per thousand you make over those caps. So this isn't an all or nothing. So this is a good thing for some of you who are higher earners than those caps. The MSRP caps are still the same. Sedans and others are capped at $55,000. Vans, SUVs, and trucks are capped at $80,000. Now, to determine what type of car these are, it does say in the bill that they will use the EPA's guidance to address what these cars are as a baseline, so it's unlikely that that's going to change much. And because of that, the Tesla Model Y is considered an SUV, and the Mach-E is considered a wagon. So that would fall under the other category. So the Ford Mach-E would have a $55,000 cap. Now, these are a dead stop cap. If it's $55,500, you qualify for zero. If it is $55,000 even, you qualify for the full credit. Of course, those used EV credits are still there, up to $4,000. You get a $2,000 base credit as long as it's 2 years old and does not exceed $25,000, and you get a boost of $2,000 if it's a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack up to 2026, and then there forward it has to be a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack. The income limits for used EVs are $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 for joint filers. And the timing on this, make this as clear as possible. In the first year, so presumably 2022, you will not see this credit until you file your 2022 taxes, which is due by April of 2023. So at that time, you will get this back as a fully refundable credit, regardless of income, regardless of tax liability. Starting in 2023, you will get this at time of purchase. So this will be like a rebate at time of buying the car. So if you went to buy a $55,000 car and it had $5,000 in rebates, you would pay $50,000 at time of purchase. But this year, you would pay $55,000, and then you'd get that extra $5,000 back at the time of filing your taxes. So again, this is not a done deal, and although there are no guarantees, it does not look like Christmas is going to be a very Merry Christmas after all. This does look like it's going to push into 2022, and as I've said, I've heard from several sources inside that they are targeting the second week of January to get this on the floor for a vote. That doesn't mean it's going to pass. It doesn't mean that there's not still a lot of work to do. And even when the Senate does get this passed, they're going to have to send it back over to the House to approve. Also, once they make these final adjustments, we're waiting on the CBO, who will have to do yet another study to determine how much this adds or does not add to the deficit. So those things have to come in place before this thing can be wrapped up in a pretty bow and delivered to the American people in the form of credits. So there you have it. That's the update for the beginning of December on these tax credits. Of course, as soon as I see some substantial changes or we get some indication on what this bill is morphing to be, I am of course going to share that with you at that time. So if you haven't already subscribed, of course subscribe to the channel and select those notifications so you know when I post a video. If you like this video, of course give it the thumbs up. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bearded Tesla. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.